Hello everyone, Carnasa here, and welcome back to another build episode of Kerbal Gets Real. And now what we're going to be working on today, well, I guess it's going to be Hermes VIII, I think, because you can see up here we have a Jupiter transfer window in 47 days. We've already built Hermes 6 and 7 for that Venus transfer window, but I would quite like to go to Jupiter because obviously it's somewhere new and somewhere very exciting, and there are a lot of moons that we can also go and explore. So obviously we're going to Jupiter, we're going very far away, so let's get this massive antenna on the top of our little probe core. I'm going to turn off the antenna on here because I have a feeling we won't actually need it. So let's get this configured. So what I want to do with real antenna, let's open up the antenna planning GUI. We'll go into celestial bodies and we will select Jupiter as our target body. So we have just unlocked advanced communications, which is why we are able to actually use this rather large antenna. So let's have a look. Currently we're transmitting 0 bits per second and 20 bits per second. So this side is how many bits per second we will transmit when Jupiter is at its closest point, and on this side is how many bits per second we will transmit when Jupiter is at its furthest point. That was quite a mouthful to say. So yeah, so what we want to do, obviously we're not getting anything at the moment, even with our new tech level of 5, and we're on our S-band frequency. So let's see what happens when we up the power of this a little bit. So yes, so if we go up to 40, we can see that at its closest point, Jupiter, we will be transmitting 161 bits per second, and at its furthest, we will be transmitting 40 bits per second, and we will always be receiving data. So that should mean that we have control over this thing for the entire time that it is going to be chilling around Jupiter. That's brilliant. Right. So the next thing that I'm going to want to do, well, let's change this service module to 3. We will go in, I do not want to configure that. We will show tank UI, and I'm going to put the electric charge down to about 200, I believe, will be a nice number for this. Now, I want to basically, what I'm going to do is almost, well, kind of go for the whole Cassini shape for this. So let's get a procedural structure part. We're gonna make it foil just to look nice. Everything seems to end up looking like foil in my missions anyway. We'll do that, there we go, and that'll just be the main structure for this probe. Obviously that's not going to do anything other than be a little bit that we can, well, really attach stuff on, I guess. It's been very hot here recently. It has been very, very hot in the UK. I think, well, where I'm from anyway, we had temperatures of about 36 degrees yesterday, and today it's not been much cooler, so I do apologize if I do a little bit of waffle because I'm not best with heat at the best of times. And yeah, it's been very hot. It's very hot when I'm sat down doing this at the moment as well. But we're going to get one of these magnetometer booms on, and then we're going to configure other sides in here as well. Right, so let's go in and configure experiments. No, I do not want to get rid of that. There we go. Configure experiments. Now I want an infrared spectrometer on there. And I think we're going to go for the basic TV camera. The early TV camera, I think, is the one before that. Yes, there we go. Early TV camera. And I also want to put the first magnetometer on there. There we go, that will do us. We can close that down now, and let's figure out what scientific experiments we have left to put on this thing. So we're going to need a thermometer. Let's just get the symmetry up to, well, the snap up to 3, because then we can just place these wherever we want. We're going to want an orbital perturbation experiment. That is something that we are going to want. We're going to want one of these, and I'm going to place this over the other side. There we go. It's for our Cosmic Ray Science 2. We're going to want one of these, and where shall we place this? Let's place this roughly there. So obviously the symmetry of this spacecraft is going to be all kinds of messed up, so we are probably going to have to give ourselves some powerful RCS to counter that. We do need a barometer. That's looking good. I'm going to get a micrometeorite detector and just place it somewhere down there. I'm sure that will be fine. Okay, what else do we need? We need a high resolution infrared radiometer. I think we'll just whack that over here. I think maybe there. Yeah, that looks good to me. We'll keep that there. And there was something else that I knew that I wanted. We need a Geiger counter for our cosmic ray science number 1. So we'll place that next to our cosmic ray science number 2. And is there anything else? Oh yes, we want an infrared radiometer. The first lot of those kind of experiments. We're going to need an iron mass spectrometer as well. Where shall we put this thing? I think that can go there. Looking all in all rather promising at the moment. Let's change that to foil, and then it all nicely matches up. Of course, we are going to need an RTG in order to power this thing. Jupiter is really quite far away, so we're not going to be relying on solar panels for this mission. No, I don't think we'll get the power we need to power this spacecraft if we were using solar panels. So let's just inset that just a little tiny bit. There we go. So we've got our power, we have our science. Now let's get our command and control on, and I think I'm going to go for this size, the second size. The smallest size I think will be a bit too small. Like I said, the symmetry on this is all kinds of messed up, and I think any larger than this size will be, quite frankly, a little bit too large, because see, these are already quite large on this spacecraft. So let's go in and we will configure those to be Aerosine 50 and NTO. Perfect. That looks rather promising. And finally, for this little section, we're going to get our spherical tank and we're going to put it at the bottom, obviously making sure that it is the right format of tank. We're going to get the diameter down a little bit and we're going to fit it snugly into our little structure that we have already made. Maybe I think I might make that one larger. There we go. That looks a little bit better. That's more like what I wanted it to look like. Brilliant. We're going to grab one of these thrusters, one of these RCS thrusters, and we are of course going to configure it to Aerosine and NTO. So our RCS thrusters up here use the same fuel configuration as our engine does down here. So let's go into engine. We will switch to Aerosine 50 and NTO, and then we're going to fill this tank up with Aerosine and NTO, and that gives us a mass of not very much, if I'm going to be particularly honest. That's rather nice. So let's just inset that in there slightly. Let's get our tonnage up. We are going to want to be deep space. Jupiter is obviously very far away, much further than geostationary orbit, so we are definitely going to need this to be deep space. There we go. We'll set the control mass of this stage to be a ton. We might be able to get away with lowering that. So yes, I think that is pretty much all we're going to need for this stage. Have I removed the antenna? I have. We've got our S-band antenna working for us up here. We've got power, we have all of our scientific experiments, we have our RCS thrusters to give us that little bit of control, and we have our engine. Now, this stage does only have 1,224 meters per second of delta V, which obviously isn't a huge amount. What I might do is I might do something like this and get us up a little bit, and there we go, we weigh, so it's looking rather overly rather than spherical at the moment, but yeah, there we go. So obviously this structural tank it's mostly filled up by this tank for this thruster. There we go. I think that will do us just fine, just absolutely fine. Okay, I'm going to go in, going to change it to orange foam, and yeah, that looks good. Then I'm also going to go in and just make these a little bit shinier, because I love the way that it sparkles, and we can see the reflection of planets in these stages, which is really, really beautiful and really pretty. So where am I looking over here? Open recoloring GUI, and let's just set that all the way up as well. And that looks, well, yeah, that looks rather good, rather what we want to go for. And you can see how I kind of took a little bit of inspiration from Cassini, probably not exactly from Cassini, but you know, it does look a little bit like it. And there we go. I think that will be our stage that gets us to Jupiter. Perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to add a payload adapter. So let's grab you and put you on there. I'm going to set you to 2.5 meters in diameter. We're going to go for a 4:1 variant, and what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take that off, change the size a little bit, and then put it back on, because otherwise the nodes go a little bit all funny when you change these. So that's just a way to get the nodes back to where they should be. Okay, right. Now what we want is our Trans-Jovian injection stage, I guess you could say. So we're going to grab a balloon tank. Where are you? Modular balloon tank, that's what we want. There we go. Might as well get the utilization up to 100. We'll make it 2.5 meters in diameter, and let's make it a length of 5 at the moment, and we'll put a mount on it as well. And I think what I want is the dome mount with a little bit on it. So dome framed, yep, that's the one that I want. That is definitely the one that I want. Okay, and now of course our stage, our engine that we are going to use to get to Jupiter is going to be the RL10, but we're going to upgrade it to the RL10A33. Brilliant. So now that we've got that, let's fill this stage up with hydrolox. We're going to give it maybe 15 MLI layers. That should be enough to last us. And look, we've already got 8,502 meters per second, but we are overburning this stage by quite a long way. So let's get the length down of this a little bit. We're still overburning it by, there we go. That's pretty much bang on where we want it. So 7,955 meters per second of delta V. That looks very promising indeed. But we are going to need to add avionics to this stage. Otherwise, we're not really going to be able to control it. And still, we have to add our RCS thrusters on here as well. So let's just make the utilization all the way up. I am going to want to have an antenna on this stage because we don't have an ultra high frequency antenna on this stage. We only have this S-band antenna. So operations in space near Earth, we are going to need one of these UHF band antennas, which is why I'm going to have it on this piece of avionics here. Okay, so let's make this diameter the same as the width of this tank, 2.5 meters. There we go. We've dropped down to 7,220 meters per second. But we can get rid of some of that when we go into here. Actually, have I changed it? Yes, I have already. Let's give this 200 electric charge as well. And we update that. There we go. We go back to almost 7,800 meters per second of delta V. That's absolutely wonderful. But we are going to need to place some RCS on here. So let's go in. And I think I am going to want maybe these ones, because obviously this stage weighs almost 9 tons, so we are going to need some rather large RCS thrusters in order to move this stage around. And let's get ourselves some separate structure radial tanks, and we'll stick those down here, once again making this very similar to a Centaur stage, a 1-engine Centaur stage rather than 2. And we're going to upgrade these to the best that we can. We're going to get the diameter down a smidge, and then we will fill it up with Aerosine and NTO. And let's see, that's still a little bit too much, so let's get that down. You can see on my Kerbal alarm clock, so Jupiter is going to take around 7,000 delta V to get there, so we're on 7,049. That actually looks, well, pretty much where we want it to be. So let's kind of get those out of the way a little bit. Let's make sure that we have this configured to Aerosine and NTO. We don't want to mess around with the thrust limiter. And yeah, I think that is pretty much us done for this spacecraft that is going to go to Jupiter. I think, yeah, that I might get rid of a little bit, but not too much. I want around 7,100, I think, just in case. Just in case. How much are we burning? 468 seconds. That's wonderful. Okay. Brilliant. Well, yeah, I believe that is that done for this spacecraft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and paint it quickly now, and then we will attach it to, I think we're going to need an Icarus. Yes, we will need an Icarus. We'll go attach that to an Icarus, and then we will test this thing out on the launch pad. But yes, for now, let's just give it a quick paint job. But there we go. I believe that is that all done for now. So let's name this thing. And like I said, oh, caps lock is on. I think we are going to want to name this Hermes VIII, because Hermes being my interplanetary series of probes, I think once we get to around the 10 region, I think we should probably start thinking of a new name for these. But let's save this and let's attach an Icarus rocket onto the bottom of this. Okay. Where are our sub-assemblies? There we go. Let's get Icarus 1, and we will just get this on. Is it gonna load? Hello? Yep, there we go. And actually, let's make sure that these are all in the right order before doing anything else. There we go. That seems to have disappeared, but no, we have managed to successfully put that on there. And let's go down here and just make that as low as possible. Right. Okay, so we fire up our E1 engines, we release the launch clamp, then that interstage adapter will fire off, and so will our LR87 LH2 going along with the separation motors. Then our payload fairings will deploy, then comes this payload adapter, which will also fire the deorbit retro rocket and all of that. Yes, that looks absolutely wonderful. I think that is exactly what we want our staging to look like. So let's save this. Let's have a look. So it's going to take 48 days at the moment, but obviously we haven't tooled any of that upper stage. So it's going to take us 34 days. That's absolutely wonderful. We will be able to build this in time for that Jupiter transfer window. We are going to have a lot going on in the next month or so. We've got that Venus one and we have Jupiter at the same time. Okay, so let's save this. And I will go and test it in Crash now, so I will see you on the launch pad. Right, so here we are on the launch pad with our Icarus launch vehicle with Hermes VIII atop, and let's just activate stability, and we're just going to launch this straight up and just make sure all of the stages work correctly, because I don't need to launch this into orbit or anything like that, but I'll speak to you once we've got this initial part of the launch done. And there we go, everything's a little bit quiet now that we have got into more of the vacuum of space, and I can actually hear myself think. It's amazing. So yeah, one thing I kind of just wanted to briefly kind of talk about whilst we're testing this, and let's fire this up, please ignite, there we go. That's always a worry when I have to do this myself. Yeah, one thing that I am thinking of doing at some point soon is I've been living in a new house for quite some time now, and one thing that I have only just got this weekend, Friday I think it finally arrived, was decent internet. So I was supposed to have decent internet when I moved in about a month ago, but due to some errors on BT's side, who provide the internet in my area, we haven't actually had any decent internet until Friday, so I've not really been able to do anything. All of my video uploads have taken a really long time to actually upload, and it's been rather painfully slow, if I'm going to be particularly honest. And one thing that I did want to try and do was actually I wanted to try and do some streaming, because it's something I've never done before, but I feel like it would be something that I could do. Now, the issue that I have with streaming this series is obviously the year episodes. I do those, and I do like post voiceover on those, and streaming that might be quite difficult, because where I am up to in this career, well, where I'm up to right now, we're halfway through the first half of 1962. It's gonna be a little bit mismatched. So what I might find happening is if I do a stream, there's going to kind of be stuff that people who are watching the series might not know about, because obviously it hasn't happened in the series yet. So it's something I'm going to have to really try and think of, and where I can actually start doing those streams. And it might mean I have to change around the series a little bit or do something, but I'm sure I will figure that out. But it is something that I am interested in doing. And, well, yeah, if you're interested in seeing that, just please let me know in the comments if that's something that would interest you, because if it doesn't, I guess it's probably maybe not a good idea to do it. But yeah, no, it's something that I have wanted to try. And yeah, now I feel like I actually can, now that my terrible internet situation is sorted out. But yeah, what a lovely shot of the Earth anyway, as we go straight up away from it, and we can see obviously all of the east coast of the United States and parts of Mexico and Central America and all of the Caribbean. But there we go, that's that stage burnt out. Let's now fire this, and there we go. That is one reason why you should test. So I have forgotten my avionics on this stage. I have forgotten to fill this bit up with the correct tonnage. So this stage is going to be useless, I guess. Well, we can't control it. We can use the H key to kind of push ourselves away a little bit, but that's about it. That's all we've got. So yes, that's something that we are going to have to check and change in the vehicle assembly building once we go back. However, this engine does fire up. That's nice. We do know that our RCS works, even though we can't actually control where we're going. So that's at least something that we know. RCS, I find, is always one of the things I forget to configure, and then I get halfway through a mission and I realise that my RCS is configured to fire nitrogen rather than aerosine and NTO like I want it to be. So yes, so that's good that that works. Okay, so I know this stage all works except for the avionics, so let's fire the next stage. There we go, we have unlocked our controls, because obviously we have enough avionics in this stage, but we have lost our communication because, well, we are we are far too close to Earth for this S-band antenna to work, and unfortunately because of that I am unable to throttle up this stage. Oh well. Oh well. I believe it should work anyway. But yeah, most of this does work. I did notice that these RCS thrusters did actually work, so that's kind of a nice thing to note. But yeah, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the vehicle assembly building, because that's just about it. So quick back to the vehicle assembly building to fix some of those errors, and then yeah, that will be that. Right, so we are back in the vehicle assembly building, and I think really the only one thing that we need to do is to go into here and configure the avionics to not that much. Let's actually take this off and figure out what we're working with here. That might be smart. Okay, right, so let's get our control mass up to 10 tons. Is that kind of what we're looking at? I think we want it to be around 8. We can always go in and check that with the handy RP1 little tab down here. Where are we? Avionics. Insufficient avionics. Okay, so we do need a little bit more. I know what we can do to remedy that. We can add a little bit more to our top stage here. So let's put that up to, say, 1.5. There we go, our avionics are sufficient. However, we have dipped a little bit below what we would like with this stage. So I think the remedy for that will be to get rid of some of this, because we want that to be around 7,000. 7,000. So let's actually know what I will do. We will make that utilization 75, and then I'm going to bring the utilization down for this stage a little bit, and maybe we will have that around 80. There we go, and we've got 1,520 meters per second of delta V for that final stage. I believe, well, at least I hope, that should be enough to get us a capture at Jupiter. It's going to be a very eccentric capture, but it will be a capture nonetheless. I mean, there is no way that we are going to get a low Jupiter orbit at the moment, and I think I would be happy with just any regular orbit. We may be able to get a few flybys of some of the Galilean moons as well with this little stage, which would be nice. We could potentially get a flyby of all the moons. It depends on how well this mission goes, really. But yeah, so maybe Hermes VIII will be visiting, what are they? Ganymede, Callisto, Europa, and Io. Yes, maybe Hermes VIII will be along to see some of those moons as well. It'd be very nice. But yeah, that is Hermes VIII. And that will be us done for now, and be sure to see this being launched in the 1962 Part 1 episode. If you've enjoyed this episode, why not go and give it a like? If you have really enjoyed this episode and would like to keep up with the content on this channel, please do go and subscribe. I have been Carnasa, and I will see you later.